Alright, so I just wanted to share with you guys the details of the transactions tab. So I'm in this file in our training site under file 200,045. I'm in my transactions page, and I'm just going to go through each one individually as if I were to set up a closing. This is a purchase, so I have buyer and seller side, and this is just testing, so I'm just plugging in numbers. But first we're going to start with our sales price and earnest money. If your sales price changes any time, this is where you would change it. If you put it here in the transactions tab, then it will change it in the commission tab. If you put it in the commission tab, it won't change it in the transactions tab. So always try the transactions first. We have sales price and earnest money. I can click here, anywhere on this line on the arrow to drop it down, and it has sales price and earnest money. So I would just hit the pencil if I needed to change it and type it in right there. Don't worry about the payee because that's going to pull from a specific place. But you can hit save, and that will be your sales price. The earnest money, I put that information in order entry, but you can change it in right here with the pencil. And also that pencil shows who it's held by. So if the seller's holding it or Northern Title's holding it, the agent's holding it. The agent isn't showing right here because I don't have an agent in the parties tab, but if I did, I could put it in there. So I'm going to say Northern Title for now, and if you want to change rename it, you can just say earnest money held by Northern Title, or whatever you want it to say. If you don't know who is holding it, you can just leave it earnest money. So hit the green check marks to save that. It's now saying that, and it's a buyer credit. On to my next line is miscellaneous charges. Here is where I would put in, it's kind of similar to the debits and credits tab in Resware, where I'd probably put in home warranty, seller credit, any little thing, buyer or seller debits, credits. So click on the line to drop it down. It gives us 3 options here. We have a miscellaneous, which I like to change that one to home warranty. They have a proration if you need a proration. This won't include your tax proration or your HOA or rent. So if it's any others than those 3, you can put it in here. But those 3 other options have places for them. So, and then we have miscellaneous debit credit, and that would be my seller credit as if there were any on the contract. So I'm going to grab this line miscellaneous, and I'm going to hit the pencil. I want this to be my home warranty, which on my contract would say the seller's paying for it. So click right here, type in the amount. Also here you change is your payee. So I have my payee already in here, and I am saving my changes. It still says miscellaneous right here, so I'm going to click on these expanded arrows and delete this and put in home warranty to IBEX and save that. And now it's renamed that. So I'm not going to do anything on the prorate charges, but I'm going to grab this miscellaneous debit credit one and change the name of it to seller credit. Save. And there are a few options that I can just type in right here. If I click on it and type, and then I'll just click off of it over here, and then it gives the seller debit the buyer credit. I can also change it on my pencil. Same thing, seller debit, buyer credit. No payee is needed for this because it's just coming from each other. So I will save that. And if you needed to add anything else, let's say there's a rate on or anything that needs to be paid off, you can click on these. Let's just say other miscellaneous charge. I could put in my payee. Sure. This looks great. And it gives you your disbursement methods, most likely going to be a check, and hit save. The seller needs to pay for a $1,500 rate on. Hit save, and now it is right there. Other miscellaneous charges to Radon Professionals. If I don't like how it's wrote out, I can always change it, or I can just leave it. So I'll leave that one. Moving on down to the next line, which would be create payoff. I will click on this. Even though it's grayed off, it just means it wasn't selected, but we can definitely select it. You first need to put this information in to get a line, and you also need to put this information in before you create a payoff request in documents. So let's say I don't know who my lender is, and I need to create that document, or I just want this line in here. So if I didn't know, I can just leave the loan number blank. Priority needs to be filled in, but I'm just going to put 1. I would put 2, 3 if there was more payoffs, but I'm going to put 1 for the first one. Payoff type, you can pick full, partial, subordinate, HELOC, anything what you think. Most of the time it's going to be full, but it is specific to what kind of payoff you like. Prorate date is pulling from the dashboard of the closing date that I chose, and you can change those dates in the dashboard if you need to. These first 2 lines are mandatory if you wanted to save it just like this, along with the payoff lender lookup. If you didn't know who it was, you can just put in some spaces and save it like this, and it can save it. But if you do know who it is and you have the payoff statement in front of you, let's say we do right now, we would enter this information. So the payoff, I ordered it until the following week, and it gave, you can either type this in, you can leave it blank, but it's would go off whatever your payoff statement says. So we can put those in. It can do the math for you. So if you want it to, it's quite similar to Resware that way. I'll just put Wells Fargo as our payoff lender, pulls in the information, and again the disbursement method, most likely going to be a wire, so I could put in my wire amount or the wire information. Here, and let me see, 9. And so it will give you like that little X and check mark if it doesn't match. Then when it does match, and then bank name. Okay. We'll ask for the address. You can fill all this information in and hit Save Changes. So now we have a line with payoff. Created this gray create payoff line. That's for a second payoff, or third or fourth, or how many ever you need. But the one we created just now was right here. Payoff, Wells Fargo Bank, has zero amount. But that's when we need to click on the line itself, and it drops down some lines that we can fill in. So it'll say your principal balance. We want it to be a seller debit, so we can go in here. We can type in here, and we can also type in the pencil if you want to do that. So I can type it in right there. It has the payee. Then the interest added from the statement, any late charges, some statement charges, whatever it's going to be, and then you will total it up to match your statement. So that should be it for payoff. Moving on to the next line would be create commission, and we can go in and do that. The best way to do commission would be on the closing setup page, because there's no information right here. Your closing setup page you should be quite familiar with, as it's part of order entry. I also put in my earnest money. You can change that there, and who it's being held by. Then we have our settlement fees, of course, and the commissions. So this right here says commissions calculated on. If you leave it blank, it's going to pull the sales price, but if it was netted instead of gross, you would put your netted amount there. So sales price minus 10,000, seller credit equals 350 or whatever your amount is. So you can put in the net amount there. If you leave it blank, it's the gross amount. So notice I only have one line right here. If you're having one line, that means you don't have your parties in. So let's go put in parties. And I can pop up my parties, see that we don't have any agents. So I'm going to go to my parties tab. I only have buyer, seller, lender. So I'm going to add a party. Type in my agent. Make his role the agent for buyer. Saving that. And add another party for my listing agent. So now I have my two agents in there. I'm going to go back to my closing setup page and see how it looks now. And notice there's some more lines filled in and down here as well. So we'll start here. It asks for my commission percent. I know that total it's going to be 5%. And now if I click off of it, it says the commission percents do not sum up to the total. So I need to type in the two space places where it would total to 5. So let's say the listing agent is getting 2%. That automatically gives the buyer's agent 3%. And vice versa. If I know that the listing agent is getting 4, then it does the math and it says the buyer's agent's getting 1. So let's just put 2 for here now. And you can also do a flat amount instead of percent. So if I were to delete that and say, the seller only wanted to give 10,000 to the agents, gives us that little error. So put in 4,000 here, click off, does the math, the difference. So this box right here, if I click this, that means the buyer is going to pay for it. So it'll be a debit from the buyer. That has come up in some of our splits. So try that out, get used to that. I am going to just put in 5% here and see how the math works. So we put in 5%, 2 and 3. If there's any admin fees for either of these, let's say Cornerstone takes $2.95 admin fee. It says it's from the buyer, not the seller, because it's the buyer's agent. And we're going to hit submit. It throws us back to the dashboard, and we're going to go to the transactions page to see what we have for commissions now. So it came in commission line. I'm going to click on it so it'll drop down, and it shows us that we have Echoes Headline for $8,000. We can click on it to drop it down again as a seller debit. And then same thing with Cornerstone, click on it to drop it down. It gave us that admin fee from the buyer debit and the $12,000 from the seller debit. So here it'll total up everything, and I can just click on these again to shrink them back up and all the way up. So if you ever just look at the numbers here on the side, it will give you the total of each one. So notice our next line is the settlement fee. I can click on it to drop it down. It gives me my standard $275 for seller and my $225 for buyer, and also includes the $20 for a recording, which is what I want. These are overridable in the closing tab, and also you can just pencil them and override them right here. So I'm going to leave those for now because that's what I want. Also brings in my recording fees, $40 for the warranty deed, $40 for the deed of trust. I'm going to leave those as is. If I wanted to rename them for any reason, I could, type in recording fee for warranty deed and recording fee for deed of trust. That's just a personal preference of how you want it to display on your settlement statement. So moving on to title fees, click here to drop it down. This will pull in from your commitment tab your homeowner's policy and your lender's policy premiums here. If you need to edit them, you can override them from here, but I would suggest overriding them or changing them in the commitment tab first. Next is property taxes. The property taxes are kind of tricky on this one in Settler, so follow the steps and I can show you that. If you click on it, nothing drops down, so we need to add a real estate tax. Then that gives us up this box. Special property taxes acknowledgement doesn't apply, past priors don't apply. So it gives us a pre-filled tax account. Click on this, it gives us our parcel number. So we're going to click on our parcel number, it pulls it down to this second line. The tax prorate type is a drop down, and you're going to hit current period taxes. It eliminates the other boxes, which is great. So we want to do that and save changes. It gives us this new line of purple. We can click on it, nothing pulls down, so we need to do another new transaction. The transaction type for this one is again current year, and now it gives us where we can type in our amount and prorate it. So It should pull in the correct payee. If it doesn't, you can add it here. But then scrolling down, we have tax prorate type. It's current period taxes. That's what we chose. The tax amount. So let's put in a tax amount. And senior exemption doesn't apply. The prorate date, again, is coming from your dashboard of when you put in the prorate and closing date. I can override this date if I want to and hit override right here and either pick a date or whatever I want to do. So I'm going to leave that as is and move on to prorate type. This is how you want to prorate it. Obviously, we want calendar 365 prorate from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. And this is, I want this charge to the seller and credit to the buyer. If taxes were already paid for the year, you would probably choose charge buyer, credit seller. So that's all the options we need to do. We'll hit save changes and it will split them and prorate them from those dates. This wording does look a little bit different. It says 6.4020 a day, so that's a little bit different, but that's how it's going to be in Settler. Moving on to our next one would be create withholding transfer taxes. We're not going to do a whole bunch of that, but go ahead and check it out and see what you can do. To delete that. Next is create a homeowners association. So I'll click on that and put in some HOA information. So this is just now pulling the correct party. So let's say I wanted this. Let's see. Oh, wow. Okay, so this should be working. I am in the testing environment, so it's not going to work for me right now. But if you type in your HOA company, it will pull in. I have tested that. So let's just type it in for now. And we'll just put this in for now. Save changes, and it brings in a new line for the homeowners association. I'm going to click on it to drop it down, and same thing as the others, that it will bring in some defaulted lines for status letter, transfer fee, prepaid dues, a transfer assessment. So we can bring in those lines. If you don't like any of those lines, you can always change it so it reads something different, or you can add a new transaction line and just pull in a miscellaneous or dues owing. There's some more options here that are really good. Anything like that. So and it gives you a good explanation of, your prorated date, if it's prepaid or not yet due, the period of when it is, and when it's paid through, currently monthly amount, all that information. I'm just going to throw in, let's say my Rep C said the seller needs to pay for all HOA transfer fees. So we'll just throw in some numbers here, and we can also do some prorations. So if it's, let's see, so let's say it was closing today, the 29th. and it was paid through the 31st, and it's $100 through date must be after the prorate date. Okay. Oh, that's August. Let's do September. Wait. Oh, yes. Okay, so it's closing the 27th of September, and now we need it paid through the September 30th. So it's $100, buyer debit, seller credit, monthly. Save those changes, and it prorates it. $13, buyer debit, seller credit. So that's how you prorate the HOAs. And you can always edit how it's worded. So that's really cool. Moving on. Well, actually, I wanted to say there's these options right here on this where there's the CIC, and you can choose if kind of like the status of your HOA. So if you need an updated one where it said needs estimate, or it's you ordered your status letter, you're waiting for your status letter, you need a follow-up, or that's the final. So that's okay. That's part of the workflow that will be coming on soon. So that's nice just to know if I were to get in this file and say, what are we waiting on HOA? Like, looks like we have some numbers, but not all of them. Are they final? Are they waiting on this? So that'll be a good little status of what we can do for HOA. Then we have create water and sewer. We can pick the company, and it even gives you a website. That's nice. So then we have a delivery and an address and how it wants to be paid. I'm just going to say check for now. Then click on that. It gives me no drop down, so I'll need to add a new transaction. And I'm just going to say there's other water sewer charges, there's sewer due, a statement fee, a water waste, an escrow prepaid. Let's just say sewer due. And it gives you these options of beginning date, ending date, prorated date, any additional amounts, any seller additional amounts, override that. So that is a prorated amount. Let's just try it out. And it prorated that amount. So that's really nice. If you have water and sewer. Next line, it's grayed out, but there's a create new loan. If you already have your loan information from order entry, it would be right here. This create new loan would probably be for a second loan, but we only have one most of the time. So it's right here, new loan. Cache Valley Bank is my lender. There's no loan amount. So let's click on this to drop it down, and it says new loan amount to Cache Valley Bank. So I'm going to click on that pencil, type in my new loan amount. It has Cache Valley Bank as the lender. Hit save, and now we have that new loan amount pulling in. Ignore this recording fee. This doesn't happen in the live files. This is just practice training. So that's an old setting that will be erased. But In this new loans tab, I can add everything from my lender's CD. So I can add in my origination fee. I can add in processing, the appraisal, the credit report, the tax service, the flood, to miscellaneous. If there was some more lender lines that I wanted to add, I can always add a new transaction and throw in miscellaneous. Or if there's documents, there's closing fees, there's additional lenders, there's reserves, anything like that, I can add in more. And I would just save the amount, give me a miscellaneous, I can always rename it. Hit the green arrow to save, and it's renamed. It did take out 2 Cache Valley banks, so I would want to most likely change that in this as well to match the rest of those lender fees. So there's the interest. The interest rate would go right here. And it would give me dates, a per diem amount. I can also override that per diem amount to match the CD, and then it will give me a total. Right now it's just giving me a negative, but just to match your CD, you would do that. If there's any lines that you don't see, you can always do miscellaneous, or I know some things are named differently than what we're used to, like the taxes or the prepaid insurance or the hazard insurance premium, homeowners insurance premium. Those are called different things, but they are on here, and you can always make one or rename it to match exactly how you want it to. So that's really nice. Moving on to, there's a 1031 exchange. You would click on that, and we would need to create a new transaction if my buyer or seller had funds going or coming from a 1031. So there's, exchange proceeds. If my seller's proceeds were going to that, I would need to add a payee. So I could add in Northern Exchange. Save that, and all 200,000. It's going into that Northern Exchange. So that's really nice. We can use that for 1031 exchanges. And then also another line for create rents. You would just hit new transaction, gives us miscellaneous rents, the debit credit, which is seller debit or buyer debit, either way. Rents due, rents prepaid, seller rent back, miscellaneous rents. Let's just do like a debit credit, which is like like that. Click off of it and it puts it into the seller. So save changes on that, and now all of my lines are filled in and I have all my numbers in what I need to do. There is a total line down here that shows amount due from buyers and amount due from the sellers or two sellers. And so that totals that up and gives me what I need, our grand total. And if I wanted to go look at the seller or buyer settlement statement, I can click on those. If your buyers and seller settlement statements are not updating or publishing, you can always create a settlement statement from the documents. So I'm going to my documents page, add a document, and type in settlement statement, and it gives me the option to open this. So I can open it this way. Looks like it updated from what I had before, and it's already saved, but if I hit publish, I can save it again and make it look that way. So that is it on the transactions page, and I hope that helps.